In an effort to rid the sport of performance-enhancing drugs, the UFC partnered with Usada, the U.S. Anti-Doping Agency. This is a list of the 10 most popular fighters busted so far by the new program, with some surprising names on the list and some not so surprising. These are the top 10 Usada violations so far. Number 10. Tim Means. UFC welterweight Tim Means tested positive following an out-of-competition test in January. The positive result was for Ostarine, which is similar to an anabolic steroid. Means denied intentionally taking the banned substance and claimed a tainted supplement was to blame. Usada tested a sealed container of Means' supplements, which, surprisingly, came back positive for Ostarine, making this one of the only times the tainted supplement defense may have been true. Means could have been suspended for 2 years, but after the tainted supplement was found to be the cause, his suspension was reduced to 6 months. Number 9. Diego Brandao. Ultimate Fighter winner Diego Brandao tested positive for marijuana after losing to Brian Ortega at UFC 195. He was given a 9-month suspension and fined 30% of his fight purse. Brandao was recently released from the UFC after being arrested on multiple felony counts, including aggravated battery, after assaulting multiple people outside of a New Mexico strip club. Number 8. Chad Mendes. Chad Mendes tested positive after his TKO loss to Frankie Edgar at the Ultimate Fighter finale. The drug, GHRP6, helps increase the body's natural production of growth hormone and is currently banned from competition. Mendes claims he didn't intentionally take the substance and blames a skin cream he was using for the positive result. Mendes was suspended for 2 years and won't be eligible to fight until 2018. Number 7. Yoel Romero. Middleweight contender Yoel Romero tested positive during an out-of-competition test following his win over Jacare Souza in 2015. Romero tested positive for ibutamoren, a growth hormone stimulator, but he appealed the results, claiming a tainted supplement was the cause of the failed test. Usada had Romero's supplements independently tested, and they did indeed come back positive for ibutamoren. In light of the findings, Romero was given a reduced 6-month sentence. Number 6. Mirko Cro Cop. Former Pride Grand Prix champion Mirko Cro Cop underwent a random out-of-competition drug test in November of 2015. Immediately following the drug test, Cro Cop notified the UFC as well as Usada that he had been taking human growth hormone to repair a shoulder injury. Human growth hormone stimulates cell regeneration and is popular among athletes recovering from an injury. Mirko would have been suspended for 4 years, but the sentence was reduced to 2 years due to the fact that Mirko admitted to the drug use up front. After admitting use, the initial test results came back negative for any banned substances. Number 5. Frank Mir. Former UFC heavyweight champion Frank Mir failed a post-fight drug test after his fight with Mark Hunt in Brisbane, Australia. Mir tested positive for turinabol, an anabolic steroid, and faces a potential 2-year suspension if found guilty. Mir denies intentionally taking steroids and speculated the positive test was a result of some tainted kangaroo meat he'd eaten recently. While Mir feels he did nothing wrong, he stated that due to the cost, he would not be appealing the results. Number 4. Lyoto Machida. Former light heavyweight champion Lyoto Machida didn't test positive, but informed Usada he was taking 7-keto DHEA during an out-of-competition sample collection leading up to his rematch with Dan Henderson. 7-keto DHEA is a steroid produced by metabolism and is currently on Usada's banned substance list. Machida denies intentionally violating the rules and claims he didn't know the supplement was prohibited from competition. Machida faces a 2-year suspension if found guilty. Number 3. BJ Penn. Former welterweight and lightweight champion BJ Penn was suspended for 6 months after admitting to using an IV to receive fluids. The use of IVs was banned recently to deter fighters from cutting massive amounts of weight before a fight and rehydrating with an IV. In the past, Penn has been outspoken about those who use IVs, calling them wimps and using insulting hashtags such as "fight like a man" to people caught using IVs. Penn maintains he didn't use an IV to get an advantage and was only caught because he admitted to using an IV under a doctor's care after receiving a physical months earlier. Number 2. Brock Lesnar. In some of the least surprising news of the decade, it was announced that former UFC heavyweight champion Brock Lesnar tested positive for a banned substance following his fight with Mark Hunt at UFC 200. Leading up to the fight, Lesnar responded to PED accusations stating, "I'm just a jacked up white boy. Deal with it." Fighters coming out of retirement are required to undergo 4 months of random drug testing before being allowed to compete in the UFC. But Lesnar was given an exemption, bypassing much of Usada's testing. Lesnar faces a potential 2-year suspension if found guilty. Number 1. Jon Jones. Jon Jones was supposed to be the main event of UFC 200, but was pulled from the event after testing positive for 2 banned substances. The illegal substances Jones tested positive for were Clomid and Letrozole. Both are estrogen blockers. Estrogen blockers in athletes are usually used after an anabolic steroid cycle to combat the unnatural rise in estrogen while stimulating testosterone production. Jones, like almost every other athlete on this list, denies intentionally taking the banned substance and speculates a tainted supplement may have caused him to test positive. Jones faces a potential 2-year suspension if found guilty. And a few honorable mentions. Former Legacy FC champion Carlos Diego Ferreira vacated his title to sign with the UFC, but was found to be in violation of USADA's anti-doping policy after testing positive for ostarine. Lightweight fighter Gleison Tibau won his fight at UFC Fight Night, but the result was overturned to a loss after he tested positive for EPO and was suspended for 2 years. Chael Sonnen hasn't failed a USADA test yet, but is expecting to in the near future.
I just did the test. I'm not positive how those are going to come back. I just don't know.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe.